And welcome back to the Hot Lap. We are talking Papaya rules or Papaya rules no more. Lando rules. McLaren number one equals Lando. So it appears McLaren has finally come out and said Lando Norris is number one. So what does that mean? Okay, yeah, they're going to prioritise Lando Norris. Absolutely they will. So, do you feel sorry for Oscar Piastri? I mean, part of this, I think, is because Mark Webber is Oscar Piastri's manager. And as we know, all the issues that Mark Webber must have had with Sebastian Vettel. Anyone remember Multi-21, for example? But it is a difficult subject. And in the wake of Monza, Andrea Stella said Oscar Piastri is willing to move over for Lando Norris, even though, by his own admission, Andrea Stella suggested it would be painful. And as we know, McLaren scored what many people think was quite the own goal in Monza when they decided not to issue team orders in favour of Lando Norris. Bearing in mind, yes, Lando Norris is a fair chunk away, 60 plus points away from Max Verstappen. But, as I said, if they now lose the title by less than 10 points, well, there we go. Then they only need to look at a couple of races to see. So it meant that instead of maximising a poor weekend for Max Verstappen, McLaren denied the Briton in the Drivers' Championship, where he sits, as I said, 62 points behind the Red Bull driver. Now, it could have been 52, but McLaren did not order Norris to take P1 back, P1 back to Piastri at the Hungarian Grand Prix. That one, I can understand maybe a bit more, but not the Monza one. However, now acknowledging that, their gains and the Red Bull slump, they have a genuine chance to win both titles. McLaren are going to back Norris 100%. I appreciate some are going to be questioning, is it too little too late? So team boss Andrea Stella, he told BBC Sport that McLaren had the hard conversation with Piastri, who is 44 points behind Norris in the driver standings. Now, the conversations have been very collaborative. What word? What a PR spin word, he said. Even when I said to Oscar, were you available to give up a victory? He said it's painful, but if it's the right thing to do now, I will do it. So what is that really going to mean? But as we know, up until the Monza weekend, McLaren allowed its drivers to race hard against each other, and hard they did race at Monza, for example, with Piastri's not quite but nearly dive bomb, which could have gone really wrong, but an awesome move. So Piastri at the last race, as we know, was allowed to finish ahead of Lando Norris. That's despite Norris being closer to Max, as we know. When Norris tried to close down a 62-point lead over the remaining 8 Grand Prix weekends, he needs to, McLaren has now changed its approach. Our principles, Stella said, are that the team's interest always comes first. Sportsmanship for us is important in the overall way we go racing, and then we want to be fair to both drivers. Now at Monza, McLaren turned what could have been a 1-2 in the race. It was a 1-2 on the starting grid, ended up being a loss to Ferrari's Charles Leclerc in what was an awesome strategy, and Piastri overtook Norris on that first lap, wrong-footing Lando, and then putting Lando at the mercy of Leclerc, who got past him. Now, yes, many could say Lando was asleep, but I think at that point, you could argue Lando probably didn't think Piastri was going to do that move, as good as that move was. And it did wrong foot Lando, so Lando has to apportion some of the blame. But there's also an argument that had Piastri not done that, maybe McLaren would have won that race. And Stella has said, what we don't want to see anymore, in a situation like in Monza, in which we enter a chicane P1, P2, and we exit P1, P3. Well, yeah, duh. Because that is detrimental to the team. He said the team interests come first, and these are the situations that, above all, we need to fix eventually. As a matter of fact, the way we entered the race in Monza left the door open to this situation. He said after Monza, 3 objectives we need to make sure that anything happens on the track is not to the detriment of the team. Objective number 2, he said, the second one, how do we win both championships? Both drivers committed to help. But what we don't want to do is win in a reckless way. Those are the 3 topics, but they define the way we go racing. He just mentioned 2, but second objective, what was the third? But no reckless way then, I'm assuming. But there we go. So, Lando Norris, he does react to it. He said, good, thankful. Norris responded to the media of his thoughts on the approach. So, Norris denied Piastri would be asked to give up wins if he ends up in front of Norris, though, and said it'll probably be for lower positions, but if he's fought for a win and he's deserving of a win, then he deserves to win. So probably not. I thought that's quite interesting. And he said, we've always worked as a team. I think now there's a bit more of a structure and a bit of an understanding that, what we have internally on the positions. I mean, so at least McLaren now are going into the weekend fighting. They can't even, McLaren ultimately have a plan to attack. And if Red Bull slump continues as bad as it is, being potentially the third or even fourth fastest team, yes, both titles are possible. But we all know how good Max Verstappen is. We all know how good Red Bull are. They will come back fighting tooth and nail. And I think Max is still favourite for the title at the moment, but I can't help but feel now McLaren, with Sergio Perez's form this year, is potentially favourite for that Constructors' title. Rumours abound that Red Bull have pretty much given up on that and are 100% focusing on Max winning that Drivers' title. Why? Well, all these rumours now about Max maybe going to Aston Martin at some point. Red Bull really, I imagine, want to keep him sweet. Very much want to keep Max Verstappen, happy. Let's say, yeah. So let's talk about this other story. Lewis Hamilton has come out and spoken about Adrian Newey. He's been working with Newey, and he said it would have been nice, but he's just one person. He downplayed the disappointment at Newey's decision not to drive in at Ferrari next year, and I'm sure all of Italy are kind of, at least a little bit disappointed. So early this year, Hamilton said Newey would be absolutely on top of the list of people he wants to work with. Hamilton hoped Ferrari, who tried on 3 occasions to sign Newey, would finally succeed, as we know, and as announced, Newey went to Aston Martin. Now, speaking for the first time since the announcement, Hamilton said, I think anyone would want to work with Adrian, and it would have been nice, but it's just one person. What I'm most excited about, he told the official F1 channel, is working with a whole team of people that are passionate and have not had a huge amount of success, or at least a championship, in a long time. And it'll be great to go and join them and try to get on that journey together. But Aston Martin has also recently signed Ferrari's technical director, Enrico Cardil, who will join the team next year. However, Hamilton's future teammate Charles Leclerc remains confident in their potential. He said, I'm not disappointed, he's told Sky. I would be disappointed if we didn't try or didn't speak with Adrian. We spoke with Adrian at the end. He made his choice and I completely respect the choice. But maybe some good news for Hamilton. I mean, Mercedes have apparently ditched their problematic F1 floor upgrade for Baku. They kind of had a trial, and they're not going to run it. It was first introduced at Spa. I think they used it at Monza, but for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, it's possibly not. Well, they entered their summer break on the back of, let's be fair, 3 wins in 4 races. That included a 1-2 at Spa. But the Belgian victory eventually was handed to Lewis Hamilton. George Russell got disqualified. After, obviously, well, funny enough, floor issues. Now, at the post-break Dutch Grand Prix, Mercedes struggled for race pace after what looked like a fairly decent FP2 session. A planned back-to-back test of the old floor specs were thwarted by the sadly inclement weather. It then completed back-to-back tests on Friday at Monza, but Kimi Antonelli crashed George Russell's car, leaving Mercedes a bit spare on those floors. Now, Russell then managed to out-qualify Charles Leclerc's race-winning Ferrari at Monza, but he didn't really make an impression at the mistake because of that first corner. Hamilton did not trouble the leading positions either. It was, let's be fair, quite a disappointing race for Mercedes. Now, Autosport/Motorsport.com understands that Mercedes has decided not to run the Spa floor at all in Baku to gain a full weekend of data on how the car, which had upgrades to its diffuser, beam wing, front wing and halo, remained fitted, so they can get a better idea. Meaning they've not reverted to their... meaning that Mercedes has not reverted to its full pre-Spa Hungarian Grand Prix specification. They want to find out, basically, how they do without it. So Mercedes could be strong. Once again, I think we're going into the race weekend. We're going into the practice session and the qualifying, absolutely not knowing which of the 4 teams is going to win, which for me, I think is very, very exciting. I'm not going to complain about that. So, subscribe if you can. Hit that notification button if you do not want to miss a video. We'll speak to you soon. Stay safe.